You want to be anything from that. I'm a Catholic. Well, I'm a Baptist. Well, I'm an Amy. Well, I'm a Senior. Anything but that. Because we still carry this captive reality, this captive mind that doesn't recognize that it took us 400 years to get to the point to be able to define who you are on your own terms. Such a rejection of yourself in that way permits you to deny the resistance, the struggles, the achievements that made that accomplishment even possible. To reject being identified with our common origin, our common essence, and that is what we now call that black stuff. Instead, we prefer to select superficial, materialistic, hedonistic, individualistic, egotistical definitions of the self. We want to be Lil Wayne, painted all different kind of caps all over his nose. The people can't even see. Painting all any color of black. Lil Kim, take off everything she got and be a high-paid skeezer. That somehow represent themselves that way. Flavor Flav goes from public enemy to enemy to the public. Of self-denigrating behavior and do it proudly and argue that I'm getting paid for it. And that somehow you get, well, a prostitute gets paid to do anything. A crackhead gets paid. You know? So the idea, you simply are doing something to get paid rather than being who you really are. You can select these kinds of negative definitions. And unfortunately, too many of our people, and you know, again, this is not, I'm not speaking to those of you who are present. I'm sure this is a different audience by the mere fact that you're here. But there is a whole majority of our communities who would be anything except what we have struggled to make it possible for them to be. A privilege that we struggle to make them able to gain. Now, if you, in fact, do not understand how you gain that privilege, then you lose access to the power of Sankofa. Okay, you know what Sankofa is. Glad you know that. I told you, you were a sophisticated audience. Sankofa is a symbol that is representative that comes out of West Africa, comes out of Ghana. And the idea says that you really can't know where you're going unless you know where you came from. You have to be able to reach back and understand what made it possible for you to be at this point, to have this privilege. If you don't have Sankofa, represented by a bird whose head is turned backwards to get the egg or the essence of the past in order to move forward, then you run the risk of relapsing. So you end up going back to the very plantation that took away your humanity if you don't know the struggles that went through in order to regain your freedom. You will not that is the process of education. And I'm like, look, please, don't get upset with me now. This is not just a black thing.
That's right.
All civilized people understand that in order to keep yourself moving forward, you have to put it in the context of understanding where you came from. That's why Jewish people never let you forget the Holocaust. That's why the whole Testament is about the Babylonian captivity and all the other captivities and all the other things they went through. Because they have to understand that in order for them to be the people who are moving ahead as Jewish people today, they never forget the privilege that was gained to them to be able to declare that they are Jewish people by placing it in the context of where they came from, to make it possible for them to stay where they are and know know where they're going. And they never forget their agenda about how to get there.
That's right.
We forget our agenda if we don't understand where we came from. All that stuff is over. Why do you want to bring up all that old mess? I don't know nothing about no plantation. I don't know about all those lynchings. I don't know about no Emmett Till. I don't know about it either. I wasn't there, but because of the Sankofa education has made it possible for me then to use my skills as a psychologist not to get you out of your pre-edible stages and your early stages of development so you can get past your penis Indian castration anxiety, but in fact to be able to bring you out of your castration mentality to be able to help you become black. That's why we need a black psychology talk about. The reality is that we need a psychology that somehow makes us sane. And our sanity is rooted in being able to understand what created the circumstance that made us the crazy people that we become. And that is the problem we have to deal with. Now, that's what the risk you run if in fact you do not understand the power of Sankofa. Now, the alternative is this. And this is where I would like to sort of talk about what I really believe this whole, the necessity of dealing with an affirmation of who we are. And trust me, I'm extremely grateful to Carnegie Woodson, who struggled after going through Harvard and finding out that with all that good white folks education, he didn't know anything about himself. And he came out of Harvard with a PhD back in 1933 and decided that I am still not educated. And he says, even as a historian, all this history I know, I got this real outstanding PhD from Harvard education, but I'm not an educated historian. And so he established, back some 70, 80 years ago, almost 100 years ago now, a Negro History Week. A Negro History Week. Because the one thing that he did learn at Harvard is that if people do not know where they came from, then they are doomed to repeat going back to where they came from. And that's why he started Negro History Week. With great revolt, by the way. The Negroes were in revolt. They didn't want to do Negro History Week. And now we've got black folks who don't want to do Black History Month. And you don't argue about the fact that you have to take Roman history and Greek history and French history and European history in any school before you get any degree in America. You've got to know where the colonizers of America came from.
That's right. Yeah.
You've got to know. They won't even let you out of their high school unless you understood European history. They celebrate Greece as if Greece was the beginning of the world. And I even suggested that Greece had to go down and steal something out of Northern Africa long ago. But I ain't mad at them. I've been telling you. They want to tell their story. They want to celebrate where they came from. They want to talk about where they came from. And they understand that they didn't have anything going for them until some Greeks went down and got educated in Africa and took that information back up into Europe, and that was the beginning of European civilization. And they want every future generation to understand this is classical civilization. Classical. What does classical mean?